Well, home to 11 million people, Cuba is now the world's largest market yet to be developed by U.S. companies. Close to 50 years ago, our government slapped Cuba with a trade embargo trying to isolate the Castro-led communist government. And over the decades, little changed. Until 2001, when humanitarian shipments of U.S. medicine and food began to crack the decades-old blockade. Today, there's hope that a new administration in Washington will reverse a decades-old policy that a growing number of people in both countries see as a relic of the Cold War. The streets of Havana are filled these days with tourists from all around the world. But among the revelers, a trade delegation from Oklahoma wanting to export food to this island nation just off the Florida coast.
These people have to eat, and we have good products. And the thing that I like about the location is where we are, especially in Oklahoma. We can get our product to the port very easily. We take it to the port anyway and get it here very quickly. Less freight. I mean, freight's a big cost for a lot of ag producers right now.
And that they have done. In the fall of 2004, the first ship in over 40 years arrived in Cuba filled full of Oklahoma wheat, a shipment Oklahoma farmers had hoped would be the first of many more to come. But that hasn't happened.
Our government changed the rules a little bit and made them prepay for the wheat that we bought. When that happened, it really made it a lot more difficult.
Federal obstacles that dried up future sales. Unlike other countries we export to, Cuba must pay in cash before delivery on ships that can't return to the U.S. for a full year, a hurdle that angers Cuban officials and frustrates state leaders.
Well, there is a little bit of frustration that we're not as far as what we would have liked to have been from where we were 6 or 7 years ago. From a geographical location, from a logistical standpoint, this ought to be our market. And we hopefully someday will get to that point. And yes, it has been frustrating, but we are making progress.
Yet everyone here knows that if we are to accomplish true trade between our two countries, the true obstacles no longer lie here in Havana, Cuba, but across the ocean in our nation's capital. During his campaign, President-elect Obama stated his intention to lift the current trade embargo. Meanwhile, Congress is expected to reintroduce legislation that will unravel the current ban on Americans traveling here. A move Cuban officials like Alexander Cataya are constantly pushing for.
We receive 2 million tourists a year, and a little over that this year. And if we get an additional 1.5 to 2 million, conservatively speaking, from the U.S., that will definitely duplicate the figures that we're seeing, not only in people coming, but in revenues.
Revenue the grain industry believes could lead to more sales. Tom McCride is CEO of Equity Marketing.
Any kind of relationship that we can build with any foreign country importer of our commodities is a positive thing. After visiting with some of the authorities here this morning, I feel there is a very good potential that we'll be able to export our hard red winter wheat into Cuba, if not immediately, certainly in the future.
According to Secretary of Agriculture Terry Peach, the opening of the Cuban market is no longer a question of if, but of when.
We feel like we're building a relationship with the leadership in Cuba, and that we're developing that trust. And I think when the market sure opens and we normalize trade with Cuba, that we'll be a step ahead of everyone, because they're going to say, let's call those Oklahoma people. They took us a chance on us early. Now we know they're our friends.
Work that state lawmakers believe will not be wasted if and when the largest export market in the Caribbean opens to U.S. trade.
The scenario I use, regardless of where you're at, a lot is about relationships. When you develop good relationships with individuals and communication exists, you can tackle any problems that confront you in a much better fashion than you can if you have to sit down and later start to get to know these people and open up those relationships.